Welcome to Dan ARG YouTube. Listening to the Edo State Governor, Godwin Obaseki, they talk how he take fix our education system for Edo State. Enjoy the video.
You should be able to know what to do with your life. 7.5 years ago, we were schooling and not learning. The schools were there. There had been some attempt to rebuild some of the school infrastructure in the name of Red Roof revolution, but we couldn't tell if the children were learning.
Edo State sits at the artery of Nigeria in structure, natural and geographic design, a nucleus that leads to the north, south, east, and west of Nigeria. It is no wonder, therefore, that it is called the heartbeat of Nigeria, a position that the state has never really been able to justify in terms of human and capital development through the years. With the inception of the Godwin Obaseki's administration in 2016, it was glaring that there was a potential that has never met its true possibilities. For a man who came from a financial background and head of the economic team in the last administration, Governor Godwin Obaseki understood the key indices that engender growth and progress in every society. He also knew he had little time to achieve that El Dorado Edo State could become. Bearing this in mind, he needed to be calculated, deliberate, and intentional about the key areas of growth to start with. With a deficit of infrastructure, revenue, and very low morale of workers, Governor Obaseki knew he had a lot to do, but something more caught his attention.
What brought it home for me was when I got a report from the International Office on Migration that you had almost 30,000 Edo boys and girls in Libya trying to cross over to Europe, which means that there was a mass exodus of young people from home. We got involved, got interested in what the situation was like. When the process of repatriating them began, we started investigating why so many young people were leaving and realized that it was because our educational system had broken.
We will continue to improve and expand the education infrastructure by building more schools to ensure that education is available to all Edo children.
Governor Obaseki was sworn into office in November 2016, and from the very beginning, it was clear that he wanted to prioritize education. Early 2017, the governor decided to organize a series of workshops. At that workshop, different people had their say in terms of what is wrong with our education system, how can we improve it. And so that led to the Edo Basic Education Sector Transformation, Edo Best. So initially, Edo Best was centered around basic education because we wanted to strengthen the foundation.
These reforms have been quite fundamental and phenomenal. And as you'll see from data today, if you compare the learning outcomes today with what we met in 2017, it's like night and day. Our children in our school systems are a lot more confident. They are more knowledgeable, but more importantly, you can measure their learning standards today with that of their peers in the advanced countries. The last assessment that was done showed that a child in a certain level, in any level in our school system today, whether a child in primary 4, for instance, who is 10 years old, is learning at about 70% equivalent child in Europe or America. So we're hoping that over time, we'll bridge that 30% difference. But clearly, the Edo child is learning at a much higher level than his peer in any part of this country. And these are children in our public school system, not private schools.
Understanding the foundation of the problem was key and central to the developmental goals the governor needed to tackle. But that had to be backed by the necessary reforms and policies.
First, we had to introduce technology to the school to deal with those 3 questions we asked ourselves. First, is the teacher in class? We had to make sure that we have a system that helps us track if the teacher is in class or not. Each teacher was trained, had to be retrained, and given a device, a tablet. And with that tablet, we know whether the teacher is in class or not that day. Because the teacher needs to synchronize that device with that of the head teacher. So if a teacher does not synchronize his or her device, then we know that teacher is not in school.
Before, we were using we write lesson notes, then the teachers write lesson notes, we create our timetable by ourselves. Principals allocate a subject to various teachers. But with the reform, we now use a tablet, teacher's tablet. Then the principals will use the smart phone, whereby lessons are sent to the various teachers on various subjects. So all they need to do is go to the class and teach.
Haven't synchronized your device, you now do what teachers are supposed to do. You take a roll call. The registration, every child in your class, the data is already loaded in that device. And so you take your roll call of each child. And we now can tell whether a child is in school that day or not. Then the teacher's lesson notes for that day are already preloaded. And the teacher is supposed to deliver the lesson note for the day, because it's a centralized system. Every child in a public school system in Edo is learning the same thing across the state, gets fed back into our portal. So I can tell you, sitting here from the host terminal, whether a child is in school or not on a particular day, or whether a teacher is in school, or whether the teacher has completed their lesson notes. So the teacher now knows that you're being observed, and at the end of a period, an assessment is done. And that has led us to many findings. So we've curbed absenteeism by pupils and also teachers in school, and also able to track whether the teacher has delivered their lesson notes the way they should. What is left and what we're doing now is to now do an independent assessment to see whether that child really has learned what they were taught in that school for that day, that week, or that term. Like I told you, for us, the central figure in a classroom, or the central figures, are the teacher and the child. What the learning process does is to try and create that relationship. So that teacher is there, that teacher takes an interest in that child, and is able to transfer knowledge to that child. And that's where the experts in education are coming, to make sure that you create a system, and that's what EduBest does, to make learning fun for the child. So the child wants to go to school, the child has the motivation to be in class, and the motivation to participate in learning activities in class.
My name is Mary Buhoro. I'm just a I always come to school early because they give me gifts like jotters. After then I come to school and they give me the best award.
Teacher has incentives for the children. So if you behaved well, your name will be on the character board and your classmates will extol you. And so a child, for instance, wants to get to school early because he knows that, there's some reward for being in school early. Unlike in the past, you're trying to get a child to wake up in the morning and get ready for school, and it's reluctant to. And that in class, there are all sorts of fun exercises that the teacher conducts to just keep them motivated and keep them attentive. So the pedagogy, the way the child is taught to learn, has also been very, very significant in transforming our learning outcome.
Now the training has helped us to know how to occupy the children throughout the day. There is no free time. There is no spare time to sit around doing nothing. The children now even know that there is no free time to sit around doing nothing. So as teacher, this training has helped me a lot to acquire digital skills. It has helped me in the classroom management. It has also helped me on how to deliver a lesson properly in a way that it will help the children learn from it.
For us, it was important. It was almost an issue of life and death. So if 30,000 kids had left to say school is calm, they didn't want to go to school, then you can imagine how many would have died on their way. And why? And the reason was because we're not investing in the education of our young people.
It was clear for the administration that setting an agenda of reforms demanded a driving force for its implementation. It is thus remarkable that these reforms and upgrade of schools in form and content have been done in the public school system. This practically brings quality education to all without recourse to class and status. But it's worthy to note that these reforms come with its cost as well.
Certainly, it's not been cheap. It's like, as you can see, it's not just the cost of what you pay the teachers. You have to pay the license fees for the technology. You have to pay administrators, people who check on the teachers, and social workers, people make sure that the system is working, who are checking on the teachers and following up with the pupils or students. We have social mobilization officers. There was a situation where a very brilliant girl suddenly dropped out of school. We couldn't reach her, we couldn't find her, and we sent the mobilization officers, the officer to find out what had happened to this child. And the parents were being dodgy, so we got worried. And by just sniffing around neighbors and the community, found out that this child, who was barely 13, had been taken out of school and married out to somebody, from another part of the country. And once the social mobilization officer reported, we had to apprehend the parent, found out what had happened, found out who the girl was betrothed to. I had to personally call the governor of that state that we wanted that child back in school to finish school. And so we have a whole system in place that helps us monitor and check what's going on in our school system. Also, we found we had to train officers, like I said, social mobilization officers and the workers, to help us observe the children. And we found cases where children have been abused, and we followed up. And in instances where people have been prosecuted for little children. So we take the child welfare very seriously in Edo State, and we will not accept any child being abused or being treated violently.
Creating the right environment with a clear vision and implementation strategy, as defined by the Governor Obaseki administration, has also drawn local and international interests to this educational revolution going on in Edo State.
And when we talk about reform, we're not just, changing the lives of 10, 20, 30,000 people, children. No. In the Edo system today, we're talking about 400,000 children. So it's a systemic change, a systemic transformation, which holds interest for those multilateral institutions who are interested in issues of development globally. That's why institutions like the World Bank, the Gates Foundation have found what we're doing in Edo State of particular interest because of the scale, the speed, and the detail of the reform that is taking place here.
I usually concede and acknowledge Governor Obaseki, because I copied something from him that he was doing in his first tenure and is working 3 times in Lagos, which is education.
There has been a recognition of that challenge, and there's the political will that is needed in order to start working in addressing this problem. So that combination of giving them the right materials, making sure that in the schools we have textbooks, we have workbooks, that students have the materials that they need, together with the coaching process, I think that is something that will generate a much better performance of what's happening in the classroom in the case of Edo State.
We're very open as a state to sharing our experiences and letting people know what we did right and what we didn't do too well, and how to make sure they don't go through the mistakes we've gone through, and also how to move much faster than we have moved.
Reforms are not done in isolation, but are part of the holistic blueprint for economic transformation of the state.
We're talking almost 400,000 children whose lives are being changed by ensuring that we give them quality foundational education that can see them through life.
Everything that has been done has been intentional and deliberate. This also means it is very deliberate for the government to catch them young, thus enhancing the social structure as a state.
You see, when you open a person's mind up, when you are able to give someone education, so many other things fall in place. We're able to relate you to what you can be in future, into careers, into vocations. So the issue of having gone to school and not knowing what to do with your life because the foundation, the education I was given at base was weak, does not arise. In fact, education just helps with the general well-being and improvement in the entire society. So we see that there's a correlation between quality education, quality basic education, and development and how society grows. I think it's about helping just opening up their minds at a very early age. And that way they're able to, from very early on, determine how to first relate to their society, to their family, and be able to make decisions early as to their careers, as to acquiring life skills, and being just better citizens in the community. We also are ensuring that career guidance and counseling is provided quite early in life. And what we anticipate will happen is that, unlike today, where the dropout ratio between primary 6 and SS1 is like 50%. That's what you see in the streets in the name of area boys, alaye, that's how it happened. So what we've done is to ensure that from P1 to P6, your fundamentals are set, and you don't leave school until GSS 3. So those GSS 3 years are to prepare you for life and life skills, and for you to acquire a vocation. This reform at this scale would not have been possible but for technology. I think what technology has done is first to awaken the consciousness and lift our people from an analog mode to one in which they are now aware of technology and learn to use technology from a very early age. And then secondly, preparing them for the world ahead. A child exposed to technology at the age of 6, for instance, is likely to live with it through the rest of the life.
Technology has been a core of governance for the Governor Obaseki's administration right from the beginning. It is a clear fact that the world has gone digital, and this has eased the running of business, governance, and the economy in every progressive society. This administration has been able to walk the talk. Edo State ranks as the first state in Nigeria that went paperless and fully digital with the introduction of the eGov platform. Every ministry, department, and agency of government is on the platform. Every request, requisition, contract, etc. from every MDA is sent to the eGov platform and treated accordingly. With the connection of all ministries and parastatal to the internet, education has also received a boost.
I mean, there are two instances. The first was the graduation ceremony of the first set of Edo best teachers we trained. You know, when we introduced this, this reform, we made it voluntary, training teachers voluntary, because we were concerned about the reaction of the unions. We said, no, the unions don't want anybody tested. We said, no, we're not testing you. We want those teachers who want to be trained to use digital to train kids, to teach, to volunteer. And we had about 2,000 of them who volunteered. You know, when I got into that room, the hall where they were graduating that day, the reaction was electric. Because suddenly, these teachers have become so motivated, so excited, and I couldn't believe that it was the same set of teachers that, we had brought in that were graduating, the same set of people. And once they left that training, the level of confidence soared. And we like nomenclature in Nigeria. We like, and people say, oh, I'm not architect so and so, I'm doctor so and so, I'm pharmacist so and so. We started calling them teacher XYZ.
On assumption as governor of Edo State in 2016, it was clear that the state did not make much from internally generated revenue, and neither was it tops in the list for federal government allocation compared to its sister states in the South-South. So how did the administration, despite all of these factors, manage to confront the burden of cost to achieve these goals with the education reforms?
We had to cut back on the excesses. You had to save up on a lot in government to be able to fund priority programs like education. So it was a lot of sacrifice. And the backlash and the consequences it has created for me politically.
After 3 years of Edo Best, we quickly realized that the pupils in our primary schools were graduating into junior secondary. And at that point, if the reform does not extend to the higher levels, then the gains made would disappear essentially. And so in 2021, His Excellency Governor Obaseki launched Edo Best 2.0. Edo Best 2.0 is not an acronym. It's a sector-wide reform initiative that goes from basic all the way to tertiary. And I want to also add, because some people seem to think that Edo Best is a project. Edo Best is not a project. Rather, it's a name we're choosing to give our education reform in Edo State, from basic to tertiary. So when we say Edo Best 2.0, it's not an acronym. Rather, it has become an aspiration that Edo wants to be the best at every level of education.
I think for us, it was, first, you want to train your citizens for work. Why were people leaving? Why were people emigrating? Because they couldn't find work. They just couldn't find livelihoods, how to support themselves. Why? Because the education you had given them and the economic environment you had created did not just provide opportunities for them. So for us, we said, look, let's move away from education for certificates to education for work. What you need the most is the foundation. Once that solid foundation has been built, then you now should be exposed to either a vocation or a skill. In most advanced countries, how many people go to university? Well, for us, it's like the sum of education is a university degree, which is not really the ideal. Also, education should be able to fend for yourself, to create livelihood for yourself. And so that's why the emphasis to say, look, by the time you finish your JSS 3, you should be able to know what to do with your life. Let's open up opportunities for you to go into a technical school and get a skill.
Edo State Institute of Technology also was not accredited, nothing was happening. Today, that school has been revamped completely and has been upgraded to a polytechnic. Not just upgraded, the school now has memorandum of understanding to collaborate with 2 polytechnics in China, Jiangxi Polytechnic and Fuzhou Polytechnic.
Edo Best is touted as revolutionary in scope and delivery by all. And we have heard states like Lagos, Kwara, and others have copied the model to start theirs in their various states as well. But Edo Best goes beyond the basic education as we know it. It hits at the core of the whole value chain of education, from basic to secondary and vocational.
So if you don't have the opportunity to continue in life, you'll be able to fend for yourself. You don't have to go to a university to be a great butcher. You don't have to go to a university to be a great, electrician. You know, but nothing says you cannot go to a university after you become an electrician. I think the thing to do is to begin to change that orientation, get our people to understand that success means you being able to fend for yourself. Success does not mean the certificate you have. It doesn't mean the degrees you have. It's evidence that you went to school, but it doesn't translate into well-being and into livelihood and your ability to support your family.
Many ask how these reforms have been implemented across the state.
Edo has always had the lowest out-of-school population in the country, because we believe in education here. We believe in sending children to school. However, it doesn't mean that we don't have children who are out of school because of educational pressure. You see many, families that can't cope, get the children to go and hawk, to go and sell, go and man the stalls, market stalls, and therefore are not able to go to school at the rate they should. We have in Edo ensure that we take steps to increase enrollment, and so we actively campaign, and have volunteers who go around the marketplaces, around shops to get our children to go to school. I'm sure you've heard about the school clock program, where at the beginning of every term, parents, market associations, community leaders are all mobilized to make sure that we arrest children who are not in school, encourage parents to send their children to school, and support them while they're in school. One of the areas we are now emphasizing in Edo is adult education. And we have a program, a flagship program, Edo Sabi Read, where we're going to markets, we're going to areas where people do businesses, and using our basic education infrastructure, the schools, to have evening classes for people who miss the opportunity of formal basic education.
I'm a facilitator here with the Edo Sabi Read Center, NURCW Ogida Center. Okay, so it's our duty here as a facilitator to teach adult learners. This program is a second chance for those adults out there that missed the first chance. Probably there is a situation whereby one goes to school and the person is not able to complete the school, maybe as a result of one thing or the other.
The program where Governor bring come also, it don't help many of us, especially those of us who want to continue to impart knowledge.
Several reports and data claim that 1 in every 5 out-of-school children in the world is a Nigerian. That's a staggering 10 million plus out-of-school children. This means that 1 in 3 children in Nigeria is out of school. As troubling as this is, how has Edo State managed to bridge this gap?
Our goal in Edo is to produce the best human capacity in Nigeria, or West Africa as a whole. I mean, highly talented, highly skilled people. And you start it by giving them a very solid foundation, and then introduce them into a whole rounded educational system. Give them, train them for jobs, give them the technical skills required, and then that way we hope that companies will come here, they will locate here, they'll look for the people so that they can utilize the people, produce goods and services.
Edo Best is unique in all aspects, from idea to implementation, and has drawn so much commendation from everywhere. With these successes so far recorded, what is the confidence that the legacy is being left behind in the education sector?
It's quite fulfilling. I'm very pleased with the people I've worked with, their dedication, their commitment. I mean, changing a system that has been decayed for a long time, requires a lot of sacrifice, a lot of personal sacrifice. How passionate they have been and how involved they are in the work they do trying to provide quality education. But one thing that I've been so enthralled with has been the participation of the communities. So it's not just government alone pursuing reforms. The reforms have been holistic. Parents have been involved, the teachers have been key, the community, the communities have also participated. Yes, we as a leader thought this is the direction we should go. But I've had so many people who believe in what we're doing that have encouraged and made this happen the way it has.
Now we don't hear from the Edo State Governor, Godwin Obaseki. Let us know what you think for comment section. If you never subscribe to Dan ARG YouTube, try make you subscribe so that make you for the hear all the things where they happen for Nigeria. Make I leave you with this video, make you help us share them. Thank you for watching Dan ARG YouTube.